Hello, and welcome to another special episode of Watching Worst Films, the podcast in which we watch every Razzie Worst Picture winner. As it's a special, however, we're going to be breaking with our year-by-year review and taking in something a little bit different. So this episode, we're bringing you our Valentine's Day special, which is fittingly the movie Valentine's Day. I'm your host, Jericho Reed. With me, we have Kyle Szymanski. And we are also welcoming a guest to the podcast, Marni Weinstein.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Marni's very much the fifth Beatle here in terms of she was the first person to really champion the show and to give us constructive feedback and notes and to sort of like channel our weird energy in terms of like, yeah, Revolution number 9 is great and all. I know you guys are loving doing things that are like 20 minutes long and interesting only to you. But have you thought of like narrowing it down and making it a bit more verse chorus? So it's a pleasure to welcome you here to the podcast and to introduce you to the listeners.
Yes,
Thank
welcome.
you. Yeah, you guys you were perfect. You just need a little fine tuning, but I'm no expert. I just like to criticize things.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful for it.
Jericho, you needed reined in a little bit. You're the Lennon to my McCartney.
Well, without getting too inside baseball, Marni is responsible for all the most like commercial accessible parts of the show. Like the Darren Doan interview wouldn't have happened without Marni being like, hey, so do you guys want to give like any vague thought to what you're trying to accomplish with this podcast? It's like, oh, right, yeah, sure. And then like we're always sort of very conscious of like, okay, well, I try and keep in my mind, don't say anything too outrageous or contentious. And I have Marni to thank for, again, thinking of not
You guys are boosting my ego. You definitely don't need to do that. Honestly, as far as I could tell, you were in the right direction. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a shift focus, and that's all I did was help you guys figure that out. Well, but the work is all you. Like, you guys did that. You got the speakers. You got it all. Like, that was all you.
Well, thank you very much. You've been
thank you very much.
Incredibly gracious. But we're happy to welcome you here for this special, which is 2010's Valentine's Day. So, Marni, your experience with Valentine's Day. The film, not the phenomenon, not the day.
Yeah. I was like, you want to go into that? No, like it's definitely a cute film. It's a feel-good, family-friendly film. Lots of side comments about it, where to begin. But no, it's a very cute film, and what a perfect film to choose for. Why not choose a film that reflects the day, right?
Well, had you seen it before? Just to start there, you had.
I had, yeah. But when it came out, like when did it come out? 2010.
2010. Did you see it in theaters?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I was in high school, like everyone went to the theaters when one cheesy movie came out. Plus, it was the time of Twilight. Like
we were all Taylor Swifts going to see Valentine's Day with our Taylor Lautners. It was
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there we go. Marni had seen the film. I have not seen the film. Kyle, had you seen the film?
No, I hadn't even heard of it. I thought I did, but I think it was a spiritual sequel, New Year's Eve. I think that's the same director.
No, you got it in the wrong order.
Okay, well, I heard of one of them, and I've seen Love Actually, so I guess I've seen this film. But no, I've never seen or heard of it. This is no idea what it was.
And they have another one, Mother's Day. They have a couple of.
Yeah,
I think their themes are holidays.
Ensemble holidays, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely failed. I said this at the end of the last episode, is I will need to look up what the name for this genre of film is. Like the kind of like anthology, like Magnolia kind of thing, where we get like a bunch of like separate stories that kind of like interlock. And then I think there's an even more specific word that captures those ones that are like set around the day, but those sort of like collage type films.
Yeah, 6 Days Casino Royale.
Yes, exactly. A reference which I'm assuming Marni won't be familiar with, but I certainly know what you're on about.
No one will.
Yeah, so I was kind of loosely familiar with it as one of those. I swear you must have like dealt with it at Asda, Kyle, because these were pretty big sellers, and I remember like stocking this on the shelf. But anyway,
is this must have been near my departure. I mean, the rise of Taylor it's the rise of Gaga I'm more associated with. Taylor Swift is probably just passing it, or I had to check out of working at this point as well.
Okay, I feel Marni's being very gracious here and not being like, okay, you guys, your history of working at Asda isn't interesting to anyone else. Two old men reminiscing in a rocking chair, being like, do you remember when the Fame Monster came out? Sure do. Sure do. So this film, on a budget of 52 million, grossed. Do either of you care to take a guess?
Marni, do you want to take the guess here?
No. I don't have an educated guess.
I'm gonna go with 160.
Oh, I feel like that's too much.
You thought that's too much? It in fact made 216 million. So
okay,
this was very profitable.
I'm surprised at how low the budget was as well, considering the ensemble of cast. They must have got paid quite low.
Exactly. You'd think some of the names here would account, like you'd think salary alone would sort of take up a chunk of the budget. We'll deal with them when we summarize, but whole incredible cast and crew here. But it actually says in the trivia how much Julia Roberts got, which she received $3 million reportedly, and her part has 251 words, which averages out.
She was barely in it.
She sat in a plane with Bradley Cooper for a day, but her paycheck apparently evens out to $11,952 per word, she said.
What's that like?
So, like, if she's getting paid that much, is Kathy Bates working for scale here? Like...
Yeah.
Well, Shirley MacLaine, out of everyone, she should be like, listen, I'm a Hollywood legend. So let's get into the plot of the film.
Yes.
So we open up with Ashton Kutcher in bed with Jessica Alba. It's Valentine's Day. We get what's his name? His name is Romeo Midnight, is the radio guy who's like, hello, it's a sunny Valentine's Day in Los Angeles and I'm in the mood for love.
Oh, okay.
So Romeo Midnight does his little spiel, and then we get a little bit more from Romeo Midnight throughout the film, but we sort of start off with Ashton Kutcher and Jessica Alba. And the first thing I have written down is Ashton Kutcher's like, when I was a kid, most of the advice my dad gave me was crap. But there was one thing he told me, it was pure genius. If you're ever with a girl that's too good for you, marry her. Which, and then it's like, bang, here's the ring.
There's so many things about that, though, like no context into their relationship. I mean, I guess because they're in bed together, you make an assumption, but they just throw it into the proposal.
Yeah.
And I mean, to each their own, but proposing on Valentine's Day is one of the most cliche things you can do. So you know that it sets the tone for the movie.
What got me is, she's barely awake, she's half asleep. And she's like, yeah, I guess I'll marry you. Is it a dream? Like, give me a chance. Let me have a coffee. Think about it.
Let me open my eyes.
Yeah.
And like, I just feel like every woman dreams of a proposal which starts out speaking about your dad giving you crap advice. Like, like most of my dad's nonsense. But one thing he did say was like, Ashton, you're a piece of shit. And if you ever con a lady into thinking you aren't, you put a ring on that ASAP and you get that locked down because you are never going to amount to anything.
The meaning behind it is nice, but I definitely think the choice of words, being someone who has been proposed to, I'm glad my fiance didn't include his family's issues into my proposal, but definitely choice words.
He sticks the landing, that's for sure. Like he ends on like he does the right arc where he ends on a good note. If he was like, would you marry me? My dad said that if I met a girl I liked, I should propose on the spot because he was really not good to me. But you are very good to me, and please don't ever leave me. So yeah, there are ways that proposal could have gone a lot worse.
Plus, who says no to Ashton Kutcher? Like you don't say no to that
unless you're Demi Moore.
Yeah.
This is like must be close to the 2.5 men time for him. And it's the exact energy and delivery, and it's the manic energy as well. It's exactly how he portrayed it then. I'm not the best with Ashton. I know him from That 70s Show. I know him from I know him from sitcoms. I don't really know, and The Butterfly Effect. I don't know him from movies much, but this is barely acting. This is what I imagine Ashton's like 24/7
Real
all the
life,
time.
yeah.
So yeah, he proposed. I was also it's a strange couple. Again, I don't really know what this is going to be about. I don't know these segments. I know this is doomed for failure because no one's very happy at his proposal instantly. So yeah, welcome aboard. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
I just want to address a note I have here, dog. So we later learn the dog is called Carmine, but I was in love with this dog. I was just like, oh, that's such a good dog, such a good movie dog. I wish I had Carmine. Oh, I'm not rooting for this relationship, but I'm rooting for Carmine to be happy. You guys better give Carmine a loving home because, yeah, great movie dog.
I was looking forward for the dog's romance subplot as well. You know, like you don't set him up that early.
Like a Lady in the Tramp style.
Yeah.
This dog's going to be eating some
Great.
meatballs later on. And then we get on to Jamie Foxx and Kathy Bates. So Kathy Bates is like the floor manager of like a show, and Jamie Foxx is a reporter, isn't he?
He's the second best sports reporter, the backup essentially. When there is no news and he gets annoyed that he has to go and do coverage on the streets instead of the meat and potatoes, the real
fluff.
headlines.
He's doing the fluff of.
He is the fluffer, yeah. I was just gonna say I was really happy to see Kathy. I said it to you at the time. I love Kathy Bates. I don't expect her much in Razzie movies, even though she has a fair stinkers along the way. So I lit up here. This is the first casting choice. Like I don't give a shit about Ashton or Alba or even Jamie Foxx, but I'm happy and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what Kathy's going to be doing for the next hour and a half. You know, woe is me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I loved the film. I had like a great time with the film, and so Marnie was separate to us because what might be useful for as we get deeper in, as me and Kyle completely forgot about like what the plot was, who knew who, what was going on. We more or less just came from watching this film, whereas Marnie watched it separately a few days ago. But just to let you in, Marnie, me and Kyle's experience was just like back and forth, me going like, I'm loving this film. This film is great. I am having a fantastic time with this film. This is so enjoyable.
It's a fun film. Like it's an easy watch, and it's definitely enjoyable. It's a fun film.
I thought it was an easy watch, and again, we'll get into it. I didn't love it in the same level as you were, Jack. I enjoyed riffing on it. I enjoyed
for sure
40% of this. There was a lot of bits I really did like, but there was a lot that confused the hell out of me. And I don't think if I was watching this alone, I wouldn't have had such a good time. I think I would have tuned out a lot more. But I can see the appeal, and it was easy to watch. It wasn't, and especially so when it's like opening, I'm seeing these horrible sitcom credits, and I'm seeing this cheesy style, just pop soundtrack put over the top, and my heart's sinking. I'm dreading it, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. In that, like, it has the weirdness, it has bits I really like in it. It has people I like in it as well, which really helped.
Yeah. I more or less agree. Like if I'd had the Marnie experience of seeing this in theaters and I couldn't talk to like the person I was with about it, if I couldn't make jokes about the film, I probably wouldn't love it quite as much. But it for sure is an easy watch, as Marnie said.
I watched this film 12 years ago in theaters. I don't recall the conversations I was having.
You're too engrossed. You couldn't look away from the screen.
So I have another quote from the film here, which is Jamie Foxx setting up his character. He's like, I'm a player, and I shut down my playerness from New Year's Day to St. Paddy's Day just so I can afford this. Which, does that set up his arc in the storyline, or doesn't it?
What arc?
I don't feel like it does.
No. It's weird to establish Jamie Foxx so predominantly at the start as well, because he's gone for the next 90 minutes. So yeah, like this felt like a line maybe for Patrick Dempsey or someone else. And it's just, fuck it, Jamie Foxx has only got 3 lines, give him something to do. But yeah, it was a weird start for him and Kathy Bates. I didn't realize how many segments there was going to be as well. So obviously some of them are going to drift away and just be forgotten about. Jamie Foxx could be deleted out of this film. You could delete all his scenes and it wouldn't make a single difference.
I also found it was interesting because this set him up to be seen as a player, but then later in the film he basically is on the trajectory of, I'm not a player, I just don't like Valentine's Day. Like two storylines there.
It seems like the film just has to justify like Jamie Foxx isn't going to be here for a long time. So either he's a player and he's poor, or he doesn't like Valentine's Day. But for some reason, we need to explain why he's not getting up to any hijinks. But he does. Is this our first connection? Is he's then down at does he go down to the flower shop to cover it?
Yeah, because that's the fluff story he doesn't want to cover.
Yeah,
it's the best-selling day for roses, obviously, for a florist. And
do you have the stat?
No. Do you?
I misheard it because I thought Ashton Kutcher said 110 red roses are sold each Valentine's Day, and I was like, surely must be more. Surely must be more than 100.
Patrick Dempsey alone gets 110 red roses.
So Ashton Kutcher, who runs a flower shop, which we haven't addressed, he's at work and they're doing like a promo piece, and that's where he's like, listen, everybody, I'm Mr. Flowers. I'm Brandon Flowers. I love selling flowers, and 110 million red roses are sold each Valentine's Day. And then we segue into Patrick Dempsey and Jennifer Garner. Is there anything important to how they're introduced? Are they in bed, or are they just like, hey, everyone, it's a loving couple?
They're in their bedroom.
Yeah, okay, everyone's in their bedroom when they're first established, really, apart from Jamie Foxx and Kathy.
And Edison, hopefully.
No, we'll come to Edison. But yeah, so this is it, Patrick Dempsey, and this is a segment I've kind of, despite just watching, I've forgotten. So you're going to have to carry here.
Okay, so Jennifer Garner is just in a loving relationship with Patrick Dempsey, isn't she?
Well, they don't really establish that.
Because you don't know what's like, like you don't know whether it's just a hookup or a proposal. Yeah. You just open them, they're in bed. It could be, just meeting for the first time, waking up, sobering up, or it could be a 10-year committed relationship. It's not set up in any way at all.
It's not set up. And then then you kind of realize within a few minutes, because she kind of starts discussing her friend's single I Hate Valentine's Day party, but it alludes to that she's single, but then they're together. So you kind of question what their relationship actually is.
Yeah.
And it's left to your own discretion, I suppose.
Thank you, because I was just going to gloss over that completely with like, well, she's there in a stable, but you're right, there are question marks raised immediately, and then they part ways. He's off out of town, isn't he? Or
he's going to heart surgery in San Francisco.
Yeah, so the movie's set in Los Angeles, as Romeo Midnight tells us, and she's like, okay, I need to go to my job of being a school teacher. And then we have another quote here, which I'm pretty sure is Ashton again. I think he might tell this to Jamie Foxx in the news report. Love is the only shocking act left on the planet, which I'm not really sure about. I get the sentiment, but I think there are more shocking things someone could do.
For sure.
And then we get our next couple, which is Topher Grace and Anne Hathaway. So if you guys were like, what's their relationship between Patrick Dempsey and Jennifer Garner, this is the one where I was like, through their early scenes, these were probably two of the actors I like the most in terms of I really like Anne Hathaway and I quite like Topher Grace. And so their initial thing, I was like, okay, is this a hookup? Because she's like, oh, like, I'm a gymnast and let me take a bunch of Polaroids of you while you're in bed.
Well, and that's the thing. It seemed like a one-night stand, and then it was really weird that she was taking photos if that was a one-night stand.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this happens to me all the
time. So this is probably the scene where I started paying attention as well, because it was weird taking the Polaroids. I love Topher. I covering up Anne Hathaway here, but I like Anne as well. I think they had instant natural kind of chemistry as well, which was already even better than Alba and Ashton and stuff like that. Tell visually that it was going to be a one-night stand or their first time, because it's obviously Topher's bachelor pad with his basketball hoop, and it's his little apartment that's hidden away. But I really liked it, and they've got this instant sort of spark between them. Topher's playing it cool, but Anne Hathaway has to leave, and this threw me off right away when she leaves and goes down to her bike and answers a phone call, which then she puts on an accent and starts having phone sex, essentially.
Does she do an accent for the first one?
I'm sure she does. For every single one. Yeah, every single one.
Okay, I thought it was just like, she was just like, I thought the first one was vague enough. Again, this is probably me just being an idiot and having killed my brain through watching bad movies and no longer being able to focus. But I thought the first one was vague enough where they were implying like, oh, she's just like a standard sex worker. Of she's just like, yeah, like I cater to weird fetishes. Like, sure, what are you into? Like, it's like,
Well, it's like, yeah, it's either that or she's, having a fake life somewhere else with someone else rather. I think the fake accent makes sense as well, because if you accidentally answer the wrong phone call, if you answer to your mum or dad and you're putting on a Russian accent and talking about whipping or something, you
Yeah.
can dismiss it and hang up quickly and, oh, someone else. I was hacked.
it's a deep
But
fake.
yeah.
I think the other thing too, as well, is it's kind of similar to the Jamie situation in that they like before even the phone call, they presented him to be this like, oh, whatever kind of dude. I just hooked up with a girl for a one night stand, and she seems clingy.
Yeah.
She
like,
went and got coffee from their neighbor.
Yeah.
She's taking photos of him in
Yeah, I
bed.
never actually. I didn't even pick up on the coffee thing, because that is weird when you actually think about it. She's already introduced. She's already set the neighbors straight that he's not gay as well.
yeah,
which is a weird line. And but Topher doesn't even blink at this. He doesn't
No.
even. He's like, yeah, whatever. And
similar to the whole Jamie situation that we talked about is that when you fast forward through the movie and you talk about their relationship later on, it's a whole different personality.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the sex worker thing that's giving her these abilities to change through personalities, but it's an odd way to set it up if it's not going to be followed through.
That's an incredibly like charitable reading of the film. Like I'm sure like if the screenwriters were here, they'd be going, "Yes, Marni, you're right. That's it.
Got it."
She has experience with Johns and just like she's a people pleaser. She's a chameleon. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not poor screenwriting, because it's just like, yeah, I was kind of like, she's so like I wondered if it was like is this like building up to like with 2010, I was pretty prepared for this movie to have like reprehensible politics insofar as like minorities and sex workers and things are concerned. So I was like, are they building her up to be really nice and like really like perfect? So when they reveal that she's a sex worker, it kind of like she's justified it, where it's like, oh, well, she is a sex worker, but she brings you coffee. So you know what? Like she's one of the good ones. She has a heart of gold. Yeah, I thought that might be what they were doing. Because when she was like taking Polaroids and bringing him coffee, I was like, are we going to get Topher Grace going like, listen, my dad gave me one piece of advice. If you find a girl willing to take Polaroids of you at 6 a.m., you marry her on the spot. I'm going to just propose this. It's like, hey, listen, brother, I got engaged. And Ashton's like, cool, me too. What dad said? Yeah. And you find out that they're brothers, but that isn't the connection, unfortunately.
No.
So moving on to set up our next couple, I think I stopped taking notes at a certain point, so we are going to run out eventually. Shirley MacLaine and who was my note?
Okay.
So I didn't know this actor. Like, Marni, did you know him?
He was in Princess Diaries. That's as far as I knew him.
So this is Edgar, played by Hector Elizondo. And so for all intents and purposes in this film, he's Mr. Shirley MacLaine. So they're an older couple, and they have like their grandson, who is Edison. And like it's a big day in their household because Edison's like going off to school, and he's kind of like worried about like Valentine's Day. Is he making a card, or what's he doing?
Yeah,
I think making a card. The card plays into it later as well, when they're all the kids are posting their cards.
Yeah. And the way they speak about him, they're like, oh, like his mom. They can't say normally, they must say his mom used to do this with him, didn't they?
Or something like she's gone, I thought was
she's
the line.
not present. Yeah, they don't allude to why the mother's not there, but she's not present.
Okay, because I'm an imbecile and just like take the bait. So I was like, oh, the mom's dead. And so when the grandfather is helping Edison with his love life, I was just like, this is just a Love Actually storyline. This is Liam Neeson helping the kid from Game of Thrones catch the eye of the girl in the school play. But that's what we get, is mom's out of the picture, presumed dead if you're Jericho, presumed just absent if you're a regular human being who listens to the movie and doesn't try and preempt things. And then they're heading off to Ashton Kutcher's store, I think, aren't they? That's where we leave them.
I thought they were going to school and the kid went off on his own, but
You could be right.
Just me.
You could very much be right. I'm just trying to think of like in their introductory scenes where we kind of leave each person. They're driving somewhere, most likely to school. I have another note here, which is chubby messenger of love.
Oh yeah, the cherub, the large cherub. Yeah. Yeah, what's your note on that? What's your note? Just
it is just the chubby messenger of love, because I think it's one of the people that Jamie Foxx is interviewing on his like tour around Los Angeles, and he meets like a larger man who is like dressed as Cupid, and he says, "I am the chubby messenger of love." And so I wrote that down thinking chubby messenger of love is going to come back, and he doesn't. So
he does. Topher sits next to him in the graveyard.
Oh, you're right.
See, I pay attention.
Honestly, like, you two are brilliant. Just like Marni being like, this is what like the screenwriter is conveying. This is a great character insight about her, Anne Hathaway's sort of like fluid adaptability, and Kyle being like, it all connects. Like, you see him in the background of this shot. You guys are making me want to rewatch this movie to see what other things I've missed.
It's one of those movies that every time you rewatch it, you learn something new.
Yeah. Like, I was reading an article the other day about a guy who watched Groundhog Day every day for a year, and all the things he spotted, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch Valentine's Day every Valentine's Day for the rest of my life. Maybe that's going to be my new routine. And then I have another line of dialogue for you. Call me Mr. Engaged. Which is, I think, Ashton Kutcher.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're just laying this on thick. Is he's like, I love being engaged. I'm so happy to be engaged, and everyone around him's like, yeah, man, that's cool. I'm a real happy for you. Send me an invitation if you get when you get married. Hope that works out, bro.
Yeah.
And so I think we're then in the flower shop for a little while.
And even his coworker.
Yeah, it's his coworker, his Mexican best friend, who name escapes me.
Is it George Lopez?
Jericho?
I think so.
Yeah. He plays Alfonso. Friend. Yeah, Mexican best friend is yeah.
Yeah, because he can't hide his lack of enthusiasm for their engagement.
Or shocked that they're even engaged. Yeah.
Okay, and my next note, this is where I owe you an apology, Marni, because one of our last conversations we had before this episode was Marni being like, yeah, I really don't like nuns. Like, nuns really scare me.
Okay, I said The Conjuring
scary nuns. Sorry. Yeah, you did make it explicitly clear, like, listen, I'm not terrified of the sound of music. I'm not like a freak. It's scary nuns. But as soon as the nuns appeared, I was like, oh God, what have I made Marni watch? And then the fact that the next line was like, oh, you should know we're Jewish. I was like, oh no, this is because Marni asked like, oh, why are you like having me on the show? Like what's like your reasoning for it? And I was like, oh, like I think you're like you're one of my friends. You're like fun to talk to. You're funny. You like bad movies or you like movies, and just a general. And now it's going to seem like there's a really specific beat about Judaism and nuns that I want your opinion on. But yeah, so there's some nuns who are in Ashton Kutcher's flower shop.
I do have to say, I laughed really hard at that line with the whole nun thing, the Conjuring thing. That, let me preface, the Conjuring freaked me out. That's why I don't like that movie. It has nothing to do with religion of any sort. But my religion is Judaism. And so that whole scenario made me laugh. Probably the hardest I laughed in the movie. But that's a personal thing.
Thank you once again.
No one else would get that.
Thank you once again for a necessary backstory there.
Yeah.
Me just telling a personal joke. and then also there's the creepy doll scene. So Marni, do you want to speak about the creepy dolls in the country? No, I'll just be out to you.
Creepy doll
No,
scene?
I was making it up. I was just like The Conjuring. I was like, Marni, you're terrified of the movie Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story.
Next note, Patrick Dempsey, Secret Family. Bang, it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't surprising based on how he was acting in the morning.
Based on being Patrick Dempsey, I just assumed right away, someone's got to be the villain here. Like, we can't have all these Hollywood stars and everyone's perfect and Ashton Kutcher and
Yeah.
having a wonderful time. So I was like, if anyone's going to be the asshole and the adulterer, it's going to be Patrick. I commented to you, it's only 2 character traits were adultery and juggling, and that's all we kind of need to know about him. He's an asshole with no hobbies.
One hobby.
And he's got his own family.
Yeah, he's very
Well, one
disciplined.
hobby.
It takes a lot of
Juggling's not a
effort to
hobby.
become a
Oh,
good
I meant
juggler.
sleeping around, but
Meanwhile, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess the women of Los Angeles are just easily wooed by juggling. They're like, oh, there's like this rather attractive mime down the street. Like, I'm going to see what's going on with him.
well, there you go, Jericho. New hobby to pick up.
I actually, someone gave me a set of juggling balls in Canada, and I have tried, and I'm not cut out to be a juggler, unfortunately. So, my dreams of being Patrick Dempsey dashed once again. I'll need to become like a fantastic surgeon or whatever he is in Grey's Anatomy. Is he in Grey's Anatomy? Is that right?
Yeah, McDreamy.
Okay. Yeah, well, there we go. And then next note, hey ho, here he comes, McDreamy himself, Bradley Cooper, and Julia Roberts. So like, I like Anne Hathaway, but maybe more, I think Bradley Cooper might be my favorite actor in this movie. And so I was really excited to see what's going on with him. And he's on a plane.
Yeah, so I wasn't excited. Because I don't know, when you go on a plane and it's a very poor set as well. I want to put that out there. Like, it doesn't look like a bloody plane. It doesn't move. They don't even try and do anything with it. And he's introduced with his foot as well, isn't he? Trying to open a window.
Well, Julia Roberts is sleeping on his shoulder, and he's trying to like close the blind without disturbing her. And so because he's a gent, is old Bradley Cooper. He then like closes the shutter with his foot, and he fails because he wakes her up. And then they speak, and she is a troop. And so she's coming back from somewhere non-specific, but based
More far.
Yeah, based off the time, we can probably like hazard some guesses. And so they strike up a conversation about like, how long are you coming back for? Like, what's going on? Are you meeting a special someone? Like, how long have you been away? And she's like, oh, I've been away for like 11 months. And he's like, how long you staying? Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4. And then she's like, oh, I fly out tomorrow. And so Bradley Cooper, Marni, Kyle, can you remember what his deal was? Because when he was speaking, I was just kind of like drooling and like
They don't
doesn't-
watching.
it right away.
Yeah,
Okay.
she assumes everything, and she does the whole, I'm going to run down, you're the kind of gentleman that lets someone sleep on their shoulder and does this and
Yeah.
that, and she's got them all sussed out.
Market.
Yeah, she's got them all worked out, or so you think. Almost like defensive as well, that she isn't going to get involved with no man that tries to open her window with his foot.
It's the Bond Vesper scene from Casino Royale of like, your code, that's just orphan. So I'll be keeping my eyes on our government's money and off your perfectly formed ass. But it's that strangers reading each other kind of mildly flirtatious kind of thing.
I do agree with you. Like, I mean, Bradley Cooper is one of my favorites in this film as well. And going back to the comment that you were saying about how much Julia made for this film, it was a waste putting those two as
100%.
the cast in the plane. Like, switch it up.
And if you're paying,
could have gone in there.
I thought, I was convinced they wouldn't leave the plane as well. I thought their whole subplot of butting heads and then falling in love was kind of my prediction. But they weren't going to leave the plane because Bradley and Julia have one day of shooting availability. It's going to be minimal. We've got one set. We've got a spare costume we found from the Hurt Locker we'll give to Julia, and we'll do it super quick. It's going to be easy. But yeah, what a goddamn waste. And for the record, I am not an anti Bradley Cooper.
Sounds like you are, Kyle.
No,
Sounds like you
not.
are.
He's just, the star is not born yet. He's not there yet for me. But yeah, what a waste. What a waste of both of them, to be honest, as well, especially when you're shelling out that much money. And
again, they're probably the most expensive, or among the most expensive people to have.
Do you think like
at that time?
Do you think Emma Roberts got paid, or do you think it was like, listen, we'll pay you 5 million, or we'll pay you 3 million, and your niece can work on the film?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we're back to Ashton Kutcher. And so, as I said, I was kind of very worried about this film's attitude towards diversity, being 2010. And like now, obviously, I imagine Valentine's Day would look a lot different to how it currently looks. And there are lots of moments where we're veering very close to, and sometimes just straight into racism. So Ashton Kutcher is like speaking to a woman at the flower shop, and she speaks English. Like, she speaks English perfectly. And then he's like, does anyone speak English with a Bulgarian accent?
Well, she used to speak Bulgarian. She's racist to herself as well, which is odd. I also thought about this because I don't know if we talked about it, but the only reason Jamie Foxx and Ashton Kutcher spoke is because his manager or boss was meant to do the interview, and Jamie Foxx couldn't understand him. So because what's this foreigner speaking about? And then that's when Ashton Kutcher swoops in. So there's a lot of racism in this flower shop. This florist seems to be a hotbed of racism, and it all seems to concern Ashton Kutcher. So I was a bit wary, but it is 2010. Times have changed rapidly since then. This would be a very, very different film now. But yeah, this little Bulgarian scene was strange and doesn't go anywhere. It's just a throwaway gag, I think, to show how funny, isn't it?
I don't think it's like an isolated thing. Alfonso, Ashton Kutcher's sidekick, I think he sort of ushers the two of them off like they're a happy couple, and it's like, you guys can start a Bulgarian village together. And in my head, it's a sort of like youngish 20-something, early 30s woman and like a guy in his 50s. Like, it's the Hungarian man from Eyes Wide Shut. And so I was like, this doesn't seem quite right, but they're like, you know what? You guys have Bulgarian in common, so it doesn't matter whatever else. Like, despite being like decades apart in age, you guys have your language in common, so that's all that matters here. But then we move on to...
It shows he's a good matchmaker as well.
Then we move on.
Foreshadowing.
We then move on to Topher. So Topher works in the mailroom of a big agency, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's an agency.
Yeah. And we have his the line here is, Valentine's Day always falls on a Thursday. Because he's like, no, this can't be Valentine's Day. Like, this is a Tuesday. And they're like, no, you're thinking of Thanksgiving. Like, Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, is like a different day of the week every year. And then he's like, oh, fuck. What am I going to do? So he's kind of panicking, trying to make reservations, work out what he's going to do with Anne Hathaway, right?
Does it establish at this point that Anne Hathaway also works in the agency?
No, I think it's like a scene or two later. It's shortly after. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
we don't know how they know each other. We just know that they work together.
Yeah, but it reinforces that it was a hookup and that they're not serious or committed as well.
Yeah,
so at least that was put through. This is the Queen Latifah agency as well, isn't it?
So we don't don't. Marni's right. We don't, I think, know it's the same place at this point in time, but we see Topher Grace in the mailroom, and then we get Queen Latifah is the head of Anne Hathaway's work, which is this is where it begins to get a bit all over the place. Is we by this point in time, I was like, okay, Anne Hathaway is a phone sex worker. She's not anything else, because she's taking calls on her work landline.
I couldn't understand that. It was so weird.
She must have you said it must have paid really well, or I don't know, the actual intricacy of how this business worked, because they could have phoned at any time. They would have,
and they did.
I don't get it.
She would just be like, I have to take a call. Oh, bonjour.
Because it's when Queen Latifah calls it out on it. There's a line where she's like, am I fired? And I was like, oh yeah, fucking right. You could have missed out on a big agent, or something massive could have happened because you were too busy being a Russian and having phone sex. What the fuck?
And having the most PG phone sex, the most non-graphic, just kind of oh, would you like me to step on your throat, my little friend? I don't know what accent I'm doing, but it's all very PG, non-graphic stuff of oh yeah, you're like a big baby, aren't you? You just want to suck a bottle, or maybe I'll I want to say even spank seems a little bit too X-rated. Yeah. She's just kind of flicking things, and she's like, oh, if that hit you, would that is that what you want? It's just a lot of do you like that, or is that good? And then
so we know what Jericho's next job is moonlighting as a sex phone worker, apparently.
For sure, if it's that easy, I've got stuff around here. I'll be rustling paper over the mic and being like, "Oh yeah."
In fact, 40 accents at the ready.
Yeah. What is this podcast if not an audition for me to become a phone sex worker? Anyway, we then get on to Jessica Biel, who I had forgotten she was in this film. She was in And I Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, which I watched a couple weeks ago. And she's the one having the anti-Valentine's Day party, isn't she, Marni?
Yeah,
she is, yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of switched off for that scene. Does that matter? Not really.
I think it just presents her as, I don't know, like desperate, like depressed. Maybe those are big words to use to describe her, but she just seemed like unable to get control of her emotions and eating chocolate under her desk and, like just very triggered by the whole day, which is the character arc that they built for her, but it's kind of aggressive.
Yeah, it's that weird thing of she's like, I hate Valentine's Day, so I'm gonna like surround myself with reminders of it everywhere, and just like I'm gonna essentially torture myself.
Question: Does this day make you drop so crazy and like act all out? Like, how are you February 15th? Like, are you back to normal? Right?
It's like a werewolf. She just like buttons up her shirt. It's like, okay, everyone, yeah, as we were. So yeah, we have her, and like, so I think she might have won, or she was like nominated for And I Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, and I was like, she was kind of okay. I think I defended her in that episode, and here I was like, ooh, you're not good, because she is meant to be very sort of highly strung and has like a lot of moments where she's really sort of like anxious, freaking out, and Jessica Biel is like the opposite of that. She just sort of like radiates like cool and like control, and so when she's freaking out,
she doesn't give a fuck. Like she just doesn't. Like I said at the time, she doesn't give a shit about this. This is an easy payday for her, easier than I'd now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. She's grateful that Jessica Alba's there to overshadow any performance she's ever going to do. So yeah, she doesn't care.
Yeah, fair enough. And so from the bad to the good, we then have, my notes are basically just me writing down the names of actors who are in this. So we then
helps us keep track of it.
Yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah, this is the point where everything's interweaving too fast, and I might get back to Topher. Like I don't know what's going on. There's too much. Slow down. Who's this? What's happening here? Who's this?
We need Topher
star?
on OnlyFans realizing like, oh my god, that looks a lot like, there's a Polaroid of me on this girl's OnlyFans. So then we have Christian Schall, who is in a whole bunch of things at this point in time. Your best is Mel from Flight of the Conchords. And so we should have introduced her by now. Taylor Swift is in this movie. So apologies to all the Swifties out there if they hate us for what we are about to say.
I also got really excited for Schall appearing because she wasn't credited at the start. I know
wasn't top billed, surprisingly.
Surprisingly, everyone else gets fucking billed, but obviously this is probably pre-Fame or pre-literally every role on the planet or any animated show or,
This is
anything.
like Concord, so you're funny as being like a supporting character in an HBO show at this point in time, but you haven't yet.
So I got really excited that, she'll get maybe that sort of geeky subplot or something, or something. There's going to be something for her. No, she's only there to speak to Emma Roberts, who pronounces that she wants to lose her virginity to her boyfriend, who's playing the trumpet or some shit, and Schall looks mortified and crunches her can as well, which is a nice little bit of physical comedy. Like, and Schall's great, and I got excited that she was going to be in it longer, and then she's out, she's gone. Fuck it, move to Taylor Swift, and my heart sinks once again.
Real roller coaster of a movie for you, Kyle. Hey.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
So this movie, like this scene's set at a high school for the first time. So Taylor Swift's introduced earlier on. She lives in the same apartment building as
Patrick Dempsey, I think.
Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah, because she met Jennifer Garner in the elevator.
Yeah, she meets someone in the elevator, and I was like, I know the autobiographical element of who she meets on this film. So I was like, she must be in it more than this one scene. But for a moment, because she has some conversation about like just like what candy or some Valentine's Day. She's got a bear or something. Anyway, I don't know.
She just portrays that. And I mean, I actually went to high school in North America, but she portrays that
What's it like,
standard, that standard like pretty dumb girl in high school, which I've told Jericho this many times, but like the way movies were portrayed for high school is not actually how high school was growing up in North America. But yeah, it to me, it just kind of sucked. I was like, you could have just made her a normal girl. Like, why does that matter? She was so dumb in this movie.
Is she capable of playing a normal girl though?
It's a good question.
That's the
Hang
point.
on.
You've got played her strengths.
Marni, you're telling me that at no point in your high school years did you travel back to the 1950s and ensure that your parents met at a dance and thus that you were conceived? Or like at no point did you...
No, that totally happened. I forgot about that time where I jumped in a DeLorean, but
the rest
that
of
was
it.
like a blip, you know, compared to the rest of high school.
I'm the opposite with Taylor Swift, where I was like, you want to cast Taylor Swift as the Rachel McAdams in Mean Girls. Like, that's kind of who she has to be. But in this, she's like dancing awkwardly. And so they don't know what she is if she's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like she's kind of like a little bit the quirky, like, oh, like I'm such a bad dancer. Like,
yeah,
it's just it's so bizarre. And I don't know whether to put that down to direction or like Swift herself. Because like I wonder,
don't imagine there was much in the screenplay for her. I think it's not. I'm not saying it's improv, but it's like, oh shit, we got Taylor Swift. She's doing a few songs on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Quickly give her a role, shoehorn her in, give her whatever the fuck.
Well, and that's the thing is like this was the time where she was up and coming in music. I think it may have even been where she was transitioning from country to pop. So they put her in there, you know, to add more push it over the top for the film. Yeah. It could also be possible that she was, I do know she was dating Taylor Lautner at the time. So maybe she was in it for that reason. Like it.
See, I thought they dated because they met doing this.
Maybe some relationship sort of happened, whether it was on set or before.
Yeah, that's like, I said to Kyle when Kyle was saying something, I was like, the only thing I know about Valentine's Day is that Taylor Lautner and Taylor Swift dated, and I'm fairly sure it's because...
told you that.
I had no idea of that either. I joked to you. I was like, oh, maybe the two Tay-Tays will hook up or something. And you were like, do you not know? And I was like, know what? Like, I don't know. It's 2010. This is my dark age.
Listen, I have my chronology of, because I am a huge sexist and I judge Taylor Swift by the men in her life. I have my list of all of them, like John Mayer, Jake Gyllenhaal, Harry Styles, the Kennedy. Did she date a Schwarzenegger? I don't know. Maybe we get these confused. Taylor Lautner. And just like, I'm obsessive with all the lyrics where it's like, we met on set of Valentine's Day. And then you went away. I was like, oh, who could this possibly refer to? Is this about Harry Styles?
We met in the twilight of your career.
The long lost album we're all waiting for.
Yeah, so you said, Kyle, that you didn't think she was involved with the screenwriting process. I very much think she was, because like she presents Taylor Lautner like a gift where she's like, hey, happy Valentine's Day. And he opens it. And it's like a jersey, like a sports jersey, and he pulls it up and like kind of, oh. He's like, 13? Well, like 13's not my lucky number. And she's like, I know, it's my lucky number. And I said to Kyle, I was like, I hate that I know this, but 13 is Taylor Swift's lucky number.
Yeah, and she was doing the hand thing that was something that she was doing with her fans and in her music world then. So I do think that you're both right. I think she wasn't involved in the writing, but I think that she asked for specific elements of her career to be included.
All I can say is that this is going to be very rewarding on like the 17th watch of Valentine's Day, when I hyper focus on Taylor Swift's hands and the communication she's making when she's tapping out in Morse code, or when she's like clapping to the beat of like Shake It Up, and it's like, oh my god, she was Shake It Off rather.
Easter egg.
Because the reason I know Taylor Swift's favorite number is like, have dated a number of Taylor Swift fans who are obsessed with like the weird numerology thing that she does, of like, she's very like yeah, like sort of paranoid conspiracy theorist levels of like 13, and every album has to have 13 tracks, and this has to be like
Oh,
13
I didn't
minutes
even
and
know
13.
that.
Yeah, no, Taylor Swift is hardcore with like sending secret messages and things. So maybe this film does
Wow.
reward greater scrutiny.
Jericho says it was his ex-girlfriend, but like
Yeah, no,
Marnie,
we
stop
all
giving
know
away
the
my
truth.
secrets here.
And to jump off her a little bit and go to her counterpart with the same name, he was one of the most normal actors in the film, in my opinion. He seemed like himself out of everyone, and it was boring.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
I love most normal, but you're right. That's the best way of putting it. He's just utterly normal, a regular dude, and he comes across as like Marlon Brando because he's just grounded and real in a way that most other people are, and certainly Taylor Swift is not.
Yeah, day and night for sure.
Yeah,
Was this Taylor's first on-screen appearance, like in a
It's a good
film or anything?
question.
this was her first feature. So I looked it up. Speaking to Kyle, I might like I said as like unless she had like a when Justin Bieber got killed in CSI or whatever that was, like unless we had something like
Looked
that.
up.
I looked it up in the mental Rolodex of I went to my mind palace and yeah, no, this was her first movie credit, and she had a great
Okay.
career. She was then in The Lorax, she was then in The Giver,
Right.
Cats, Amsterdam. She's gone on, and she's going to be directing
And
a
she
film, which will be
She
coming
was
to you.
good in The Giver, and she did well as a voice actor in The Lorax, but this was just like, starting off on the wrong foot.
Humble beginnings, humble origins. Marnie, nowhere but
Humble
up from
beginnings.
here for old Miss Swift. And then we
It
have
launched her career for sure.
and then we have our favorite character, the introduction of one Mr. Franklin.
Oh, I love him.
The MVP of the film. Because I wasn't laughing up until this point. I mean, there was a few little chuckles or smiles. His introduction with Jennifer Garner as his teacher, and I was asking the classroom full of kids about Valentine's Day, and do they know about Valentine's Day? What is it about? His hand shoots up, this little 10-year-old boy, and then he starts going on about the St. Valentine's Day massacre with Al Capone. That's how he knows it. He doesn't know anything else about the romantic day. And I instantly just thought, yes, this is me. I love this kid. This is a weird little freak kid that's just going to be a little shit poster.
Yeah.
He puts his hand up again as well afterwards, doesn't he? You have a second line after.
Well, she goes to him. Like, there's a question where like all of the kids have got their hands up, and she's like, "No, Franklin." Like,
you're not going to go for the weird little robot Edison. You're going to go for this cool little kid over here. Like, yeah, absolutely.
He is great. I took very few notes, and one of the main notes was Franklin is my favorite character, MVP.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't remember what his other comedic beat is, but there's a moment where like a kid tells him to shut up.
Yeah, Edison tells him to sit down and be quiet.
That's why Edison's a little dweeb. He's just this annoying little shithead.
Teacher's pet.
I thought it was just a random kid until I saw Edison in the next scene and put together like what they were wearing. I was like, holy shit, like the protagonist just told my man Franklin to sit down and shut up. I was ready to go to war for Franklin, where I was like, listen, like you might be the protagonist of this movie, but like you stay away from Franklin.
Riots for Franklin. I mean, Franklin's best scene was the soccer scene, if you ask me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm just jumping ahead. I'm going to condense all the Franklin scenes together.
Yeah.
And then when it cuts to it cuts later, Edison's too sad to play soccer. He has a great line that I enjoyed when he's in the car going to it with Emma Roberts, who at this point I still assumed was his sister. I didn't understand that it was a nanny or babysitter. I don't understand why babysitters do this. She takes him to see. The great line is, will you help me? And she's like, yeah, of course, but first soccer. And I was like, okay, I like this girl. It takes him to soccer, but he's too sad to play fucking football because he's a loser. And then in goals is Franklin, who's shouting "Franklin rules," and he headers it as well, which is something you pointed out, Jericho. He doesn't even need his hands. He's such a good goalkeeper. He puts his top over his head. You know, he's not even looking. He still makes a save because he's fucking great. I love this kid. I like how he gets random screen time as well for no reason. There's a little payoff later that I enjoyed, but this one scene here, you make your hero, your protagonist, good kid, look like such a loser. And I guess what is maybe the annoying bully is just so cool and energetic, and I loved him. Absolutely loved him.
I am 100% on board with you. Oscar-winning scene.
This is our social media clip because it's been 10 years since Valentine, over 10 years. But like, I haven't seen Franklin unless he was like a little known actor called Timothée Chalamet. I don't think Franklin grew up to anyone. So this seems like the kind of person that we find and tag on social media. No. And we're like, hey, can you tell us about the experiences being Franklin?
Fucking great. Yeah, you gotta look him up. We get him on. Shadow tag him or whatever magic you do to get these guests appearing. But not Edison though. As much as I'm not gonna be Mr. Razzie and dunk on the kid, it's not the finest performance. The character doesn't help, obviously, by being written as such a little lame dweeb, but he is cast because he's got that Hollywood look of blonde eyes, you know, then blonde hair, you know, Nazi German look to him, but he is so poor at it that, you know, I don't like it, whereas the kid that plays Franklin is so naturally having fun and just getting to be a kid. He's great. Get him on the show.
Okay, so my next note is fooled by this shitty movie, which I think is when Jessica Alba breaks up with Ashton.
Okay.
Was like, there might have been another point. I don't think this entirely makes sense. So there might have been another bit where they like suckered me, but surprise, surprise, Jessica Alba is like, you know what? Like, I can't marry you. I don't want to. Now that I'm not half awake, now that I'm not half asleep, the answer is no. And she says to him her little bit of wisdom, like, you know what? My dad said to me, when you ask a girl to marry her, do you want her to consider it, or do you want her to just know? And Ashton's like, kind of like, because he's Ashton, he's like, did you? She's like, I considered it, but
yeah, but this is another point. So when she rightfully fucking breaks up with him because it's weird, it clicked how time has been strange in this. Like, a lot has fucking happened, and it's probably midday on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Like, school's nearly out. The floors had interviews and all this work, and people have come and gone. Some athletes retired or whatever is happening in the subplot. The plane's been in the air for 15 hours. It's getting weird. Like, time is getting really weird here. And I forgot this was set on one day. Like, I was like, oh, it's a week later.
Yeah.
And now she's considered it. But no. Like, 2 hours later, I've woken up, I've had my coffee. Maybe it's a good thing I don't marry you, Ashton. And then we get sad Ashton Kutcher as well out of it, which fun for me, because he's not manic and jumping about. But yeah, like, that was the first twist, I guess. I thought it was quite obvious, but I was, like I said to you, Jericho, I think like a Hollywood hack sometimes. And if I had to write this on one day as well, like the screenwriter did, that's exactly what I would do. And it also limits Jessica Alba's time, which is strange because she is like top billed.
Well, that's why I felt embarrassed to not get it, because Jessica Alba is like just completely like, you don't see her when she's not in the scene with Ashton Kutcher. And if she was genuinely going to be like his fiance, she would be like a character we follow, and we would get her storyline and her sort of experience of like, oh, okay, I'm engaged, like I'm telling my friends. But she's treated like the villain, like she's the wrong one that you get engaged to.
And this is instantly shown. And again, I'm jumping all over the place, but when Ashton Kutcher goes to the school to see Jennifer Garner.
Okay, I'll stop you right here because I've missed a key plot point, and I only just realized I didn't deal with it in my notes. So Patrick Dempsey is sending he's sending roses to the women in his life. And he goes to Ashton Kutcher's flower shop and is like, I need some roses sent to some women. And I said to Kyle, I was like, how much are we thinking here? How many? And you were like, 2, 3? And I was like, 35. I think it's 35 secret families. But he's like, hey, Ashton, like, you know what, like, confidential, like, do me a solid. And so Ashton takes the sort of like dictation of the address and names, and that's when he realizes that the the recipient of one of these roses is his best friend, Jennifer Garner, his girl Friday, Jay Garn.
It's because he checks his ID or something and he knew his name or whatnot.
Yeah.
I believe that's right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so he has like that moment of like that dilemma, like, oh, am I going to tell my friend that like she's the other woman, like she doesn't know? And he decides.
And that's what bothers me about how Hollywood this film was. If this was reality, I'd be like, okay, here you go, picking up the phone and calling your friend. It was so ridiculous.
As soon as he turns his back.
Hey, your boyfriend just came in and bought 2 different flower arrangements for 2 different addresses. Might want to check on that. Like, come on.
This is where like you had a completely different approach to like being like, oh, unrealistic Hollywood, whereas me and Kyle were just like, Ashton Kutcher, that piece of shit, because he's kind of agonizing about like, oh, do I tell her, whatever, and he kind of doesn't do it until he gets broken up with and is immediately like on the phone to be like, well, if I don't get to have a fiance, if I don't get a woman, this guy certainly doesn't get 2. I need to tell her right now. And just to cover, this is where we learn Carmine's name, because Ashton Kutcher, Jessica Alba's like, you know what? No, like I'm conscious now and I don't want to marry you. And he's like, okay.
Conscious.
Well, come on, Carmine. We're hitting the road. And even Carmine doesn't want to be with him. Carmine like jumps on the bed or whatever and is like, no, I'm staying.
Really digging in there.
So sorry, Kyle. This was where I realized your plot point fits in between here, I think.
Yeah. Right. He drives to the school and she's teaching a class. He just waltzes in. Yeah, obviously. He waltzes in, gets her out of the classroom for a moment I thought to tell her about Patrick Dempsey, but obviously not. I think I've misremembered that already. He has a rose in his hand. He has the box as well, because that's when the little dweeb Edison says, where's my roses? I paid you $13 for you. And Ashton's like, what
you ordered the
$13?
Deluxe package, my friend. That was $50.
What $13? You know, he scammed a little kid. So I thought this is angry, evil Ashton that I was kind of looking forward to. But I've actually forgotten what my point was, so whatever. Yeah. At this point though, I realized this is what they're going for. The best friend that gets cheated on, the 2 heartbroken best friends, and they're gonna fall in love. And this is when I was firing off all the plot points to you as well, when everything was starting to click. And I was like, don't think of surprises, Kyle. Think of hack Hollywood writer. Everything's gonna have to fall in place. Everyone's gonna have to meet their other half, and everything's gonna have a nice resolution. There were still points as well. Sorry?
I think the best friend love story clicked for me a lot earlier. In order, it goes, Ashton proposes. We see Jennifer Garner's character with Patrick Dempsey, and then we see her come to the flower shop. We see that friendship, and then we see Patrick Dempsey's character with his wife, and then the flower scene. Once that scene happened for me, that was like, okay, he's getting screwed, because that was already set up in the first 5 minutes of the movie. He's getting screwed. And they're best friends. Yeah. Even in the flower scene, when she was in the flower shop scene, when she was at the flower shop, she was like, this relationship. Oh, she said yes. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
That kind of for me, and everybody gets it when they get it, or if they don't, whatever. But that for me was just kind of like so cliche and like that standard Hollywood trope, right?
Thank you very much, Marni. We were going to be coming to you there for like a please make sense of what me and Kyle are trying to speak about here, because I can't remember.
Everything's going over the place. See, there's a moment. It's what throws me off is so again, I'm just leaping all over the place. You guys are going to have to rein me in. Is when Jennifer Garner delivers her moment to Patrick Dempsey in the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
That's way later.
Oh no,
right?
no. I think we've got more. The plane scene comes before that.
Well, okay, right. Go back to your.
He's going on a point. He's going on a point.
No. I'll bite my tongue. You talk about the fucking Bradley Cooper sitting on a plane.
No.
Go
Ashton
ahead.
Kutcher's plane scene.
Oh,
airport.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Marni. That's the word. Yeah. because we have that like rom-com again, I'm gonna say it, Love Actually moment where he like at least Love Actually, I think was Love Actually pre 9/11. Anyway,
Yeah, Friends. Like I thought Friends, isn't that
Friends
got
is
the
what I thought.
yeah, every rom-com has the rush to the airport, and so Ashton Kutcher is like, well, now I'm single, I need to tell Jennifer Garner the truth, and for her own good. And he runs to the airport and is like, listen, I'm doing a rom-com thing, I need to get through. And so me and Kyle really like this actor who is like, he says, this counter is for oversized luggage, that counter is for oversized people.
That was a good line.
And then like Ashton Kutcher is like desperately being like, hey buddy, like do me a solid, you have to let me through. And the guy is like, listen, I'm a 52-year-old man wearing a blue shirt to work. Do you think I give a shit about what's going on with you? And they sort of have that back and forth. And then eventually he buy a ticket, whatever, he gets through.
No, he gives him one because he makes some sort of, again,
Yeah.
cheesy rom-com line to the dog in the kennel. And the guy's like, that's enough for me. I'm going to give you a free ticket and you can run through the airport without your shoes on.
Okay, now apologies for interrupting. He finds Jennifer Garner and then tells her enough of the truth to plant that seed of doubt that her dream relationship may not be as she had previously thought. So yeah, there. Do you want to take over, Kyle? Because then it's the restaurant scene, and I have no notes about that.
I don't really have. It all just comes together for me in this one scene, right? So Jennifer Garner is disguised as a waitress. I don't think she works there, does she? No, wait. Because it comes to my point.
She's undercover.
Right, yeah. Patrick Dempsey's sitting there with his wife, Valentine's Day. Time's weird. We don't know what fucking time of the day it is. And Jennifer Garner comes in as his waitress, and he's shocked. Oh no, I've been caught out. Yeah. She does this massive fucking monologue about how the special is pig's heart or pig's testicles shoved up an anus and boiled or something.
It's haggis.
It's basically, yeah. It sounds delicious. And all the customers around are shocked and appalled or what's going on. She pulls out the toy heart I think he gave her at the start. And puts it on the table callback. And the wife's starting to click as well. Like, oh, something's going on here. Like, I've seen that cheap.
She's like, you juggle. Before. And the wife is like, he does juggle. How did she know this?
So it's okay. It's a fun little scene. I'm having fun. This is a little bit entertaining for me. I like Jennifer Garner in this film as well. I think she's one of the better actresses for me. But this is my mark out moment. This is my biggest smile. Is when she's leaving the restaurant and she thanks the actual waiter, and he's like, "Oh yes, my kid loves you in school. You know, Franklin talks about you all the time." And she's like, "Oh, but, he has such a good imagination." And I'm like, "Fucking Papa Franklin saves the day." Like, it all ties together. I'm so happy. Get back to Tobey Maguire, and I'm just gonna be fucking Topher Grace rather, and I'm gonna be so happy. So that's it. That's just like my last like laugh and pop moment. I was so happy to see Papa Franklin. He doesn't get a love interest though. Franklin's gonna be a no motherless child for the rest of his days. But I was so happy that this all tied together, and this was the last moment of Franklin glory for me.
Kyle, you're going off on this story, and I'm thinking, where is he going with this? And I'm like, oh my god, he's going to talk about Franklin's dad.
I went nowhere as well. I was like, never seen before, never seen since. He's not there at the soccer game. He's too busy working as a single dad. Yeah. He doesn't get the day off on Valentine's Day.
We love the Franklin family. We stab them so hard.
We need to get Kristen Schaal in as Franklin's new mom.
Exactly. There's in my sequel, this is all going to come together. Don't worry.
Because Marnie asked, she was like, "So do you think you've got all the connections?" And I was like, "No, me and Kyle have missed like massive swathes of like very important characters, like Emma Roberts, having no idea. But we've certainly got everything related to Franklin. We've got like
Well, that's it. Like, we haven't spoke about the athlete that should tie it in, who's played by insert name here, because it has no relevancy until the end, really, and it's just a padding essentially. There's the athlete who's it played by?
Eric. He's also in Grey's Anatomy. Eric.
Oh, all comes together.
Hold on, I got it right here.
My only note for him is
Eric
I'm
Dane.
gay. Sorry.
Oh yeah, well yeah. So like they drag out. He has a car crash with Mexican Ashton Kutcher's friend, I think.
George
Um,
Lopez.
that's the one. And he's randomly throughout it. He's got these. Jamie Foxx wants to get an interview with him. He's in all this padding. It's just taken me away from Franklin. What's taken me away from Topher Grace. Even the main part of it. His big reveal is he's gay. No one seems to care because why would you?
2010, people are
you
gay. Get
retiring
over
though?
it.
They still want to know.
I
2010,
think
yeah.
I
like,
think
come
his
on now.
purpose was to be a connector. Like if you think about it,
Yeah.
he connects,
I thought the
Agent
Forest was
Smee
though.
and there's a couple characters that are connectors.
I
They
thought
don't
Franklin
play
was a
the role.
connector.
Kyle, you're making a big web here. Marnie's right. You need lots of points of intersection to bring this together, and he's for sure one of them.
Yeah, he's got his publicist, who is
Jessica
oh
Biel.
God, thank you. No,
Yeah.
not Jessica. Yeah, Jessica Biel.
Yeah,
And
there's
then
too
he's
many
got
Jessicas in this film.
yeah. Then he's got his agent, who's Queen Latifah, who works at this, and then they all connect, even back to Topher Grace and and Franklin. So I think that was his purpose, was to, and Jamie Foxx gets his moment with him and whatever. He's a connector, but he didn't serve much of a purpose besides that.
Yeah, what you said about the connectors is a great point, because I think in my head I was seeing connections where they weren't there, because we get Emma Roberts drops Edison off at like his grandparents, and this is like a truly bonkers scene. And me and Kyle were a bit confused because I was like, hang on, what's this dynamic? Because we'd missed the nanny babysitter thing. And Kyle was like, oh no, like she's like her sister. He's like, she's Edison's sister. I was like, no, she can't be Edison's sister, because in another scene that we forgot to mention, we saw her mum catch her boyfriend completely naked with a guitar.
Yeah, we kind of skipped the high school kids.
the losing your virginity angle, not so fun. Although I guess we're going to come back to it, seeing my next note. So I was like, no, we've seen her mum, and we know the one thing we know about Edison is his mum is out of the picture. And then what's more important is like Shirley MacLaine and like her husband's like story. So like Emma Roberts is kind of like asking for advice, being like, oh, you know what, like I'm thinking of like sleeping with like my high school boyfriend, and like we're just like looking for the perfect moment. He was interrupted because he stripped off completely naked, and then my mum walked in on him. And Shirley MacLaine and Mr. MacLaine, John MacLaine, she's like, well, it's not as if like he's the only guy like I'll ever have sex with. Like this doesn't matter that much. And so John MacLaine is like, well, this might be a surprise, but like me and Shirley are like the only, like we were our first and only. And this is just so insane. Like Emma Roberts looks at Shirley MacLaine and she just withers under her withers under her like gaze. As like this secret that I've kept for like 50 years. Presumably I now just need to get it out because of like the penitent stare from Emma Roberts. I was like, I want to see just like a montage of all the times that she's previously thought about revealing it, where she's like, oh no, I've just never spoken to like a teenage girl about, because she's just like, oh, you know what, that's it, I need to come clean. And
I think it's a gap in the storyline. It's so dramatic in one way.
Yeah.
And it's, again, going back to that like Hollywood trope cliche kind of thing we've been talking about, is it was a reason more for their storyline to continue. It was a reason that it's an aggressive way to do it, to have a teenager make you feel like you have to spill the beans that you slept with your husband's business partner 50 years ago.
Why did Emma Roberts ask her babysitted child or whatever, his grandparents? This confused the fuck out.
Why was she close or something?
Kyle, it's a North American culture thing. Like Marni will tell you, that's just babysitters are more of a.
They're more open with their kids.
It's a nanny job, which is different than a babysitter job. You're involved more in the life. You're not just showing up at night. Like
You're
to
imbuing
me,
ethics.
it's like a third parent in a sense. Like, you know, she's
Okay.
helping them pick him up from school, take him around. Like, it's her job,
Okay.
but like she's more involved in their life.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So the connection I was predicting before it was revealed was, I was like, holy shit, Shirley MacLaine is sleeping with Patrick Dempsey. We're gonna learn that. um, um, but alas, Marnie's right, and it was like a business partner from 50 years ago. But that's enough to jeopardize their marriage, because Mr. McLean, he goes off and is like, you know what, like the thing about like the truth is it can make everything else seem like a lie. So I need to just drive and clear my head.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good line, though.
That's a good line.
The most truthful lines, though.
I was like, did the screenwriter write this, or did they find this in a fortune cookie or something? Because I was like, this line is more insightful than everything else in the movie. And then things are beginning to wrap up. So my notes begin to run out here. Mr. McLean goes to Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where he's watching a movie. Like, I don't know, it's not a marathon, it's just like one movie starring his wife.
Yeah.
You missed the Topher Grace scene that connects to this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, thank you.
That's when Topher Grace gets to sit next to the Cupid as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the scene that led
Kyle's
there.
backdrop.
Yeah, Kyle's backdrop. Literally.
Do one of you want to tackle that?
Go ahead, Marta.
I think it's just so we see them, like, I guess now it's placed in this hotel, and we see Jessica Alba checking in with the dog, and that's that hotel. I don't know if it's the same hotel restaurant that Patrick Dempsey and his wife were at. I kind of thought so, but it could be not. Yeah, right. And then they go and have dinner because his, you know, mailroom chums convince him to go have dinner with her at a long table where you have to sit next to a bunch of strangers.
Is this an American thing? No, because
maybe
Canadian.
Not here. It's American thing.
North American, just the continent. You know, the weird school-like dinner table. You know, like It
was weird. It must be an overbooking kind of thing. I guess LA, you know, it's such a big city, it makes sense. But here in Canada, I've not experienced it. So I don't know.
Because Hollywood's a weird place, and I come to that when I didn't believe when we get to it about the cemetery scene films like this. That I thought that was a weird joke or something, but you told me that was real, Jericho. So
that's a real
Hollywood
thing.
Might just be a bunch of freaks, and I can believe that they all just sit on one giant table. I'll stand by that. And they make a joke of it. They make off because the couple to the left are basically fucking next to them, and then the couple on the right because
are like breaking up.
Yeah, so it was like, but here
extremes.
we are just on our second date or whatever, our second time of meeting. And Topher gets a little line with the waiter, you know, because the waiter's overly pushy about the Valentine's Day, and he's sort of, is there something on the menu for just
2 weeks
friends? 2 weeks, it might go somewhere. And then so I predicted this, that I thought it was going to get a bit more wacky hijinks, but I was like, the phone sex will start going off on their date, and she'll have to run out.
Because she picks it up. Like, again, this was like, she's getting called in her work landline, and then she's getting called in her personal cell, and in the middle of a date, and she answers it and is like, listen, I have to take this. I was like, no, why would you, like, what kind of like sex worker are you where you're just available on call 24/7?
But it comes clear in a few minutes. Like, she talks about once she goes and takes the phone call, he eventually follows her outside, hears this conversation, thinks she's cheating or whatever their relationship dynamic is.
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, hey, I owe like $100K in debt. I'm so strapped for money. I have 4 different jobs. This is one of them.
Yeah.
You get it once you hear that, but I agree with you in that moment. You're just kind of like, why the hell are you answering the phone in this farm table scenario of a date? Like,
I got really, this is me, and my hack brain was writing as that Topher was going to phone her, You were going on Jericho about his kinks, and I was like, how great would it be if he was addicted to phone sex or something, and he couldn't pick up because she was using the Russian accent or
What if he
something.
put on a funny
Wacky
voice and
hijinks.
just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's like a You've Got Mail, like he's like, oh
Exactly. It writes
my kink
itself.
is I speak in a French accent. I'm like, oh bonjour, I am Monsieur Venom.
But if this was real life and you went on this date and this happened to you, like there's certain things in the movie that happened, the cheating with the 50-year partner, and this particularly struck in my head. I would never go on a date. You're 2 weeks in, you're like, okay, this is weird, red flag, bye.
Yeah,
like
like
Topher says, really.
but they've taken Polaroids, Marnie. Like it's moving so
right,
fast.
too
that,
late.
Like, it's one of those things where you just have a connection. She brings you coffee. She reveals to your landlord that you're not gay. So, like,
Yeah.
even on paper, it might not seem, but you pass the key relationship landmarks of like confirmed sexuality, brought coffee, Polaroids, that you're in too deep.
What more do you want? Yeah. No, I like the reveal as well. It was actually handled, like Marnie said, a lot more tastefully, and it made more sense the way when Anne Hathaway explained it. Topher's reaction is like, yeah, it's a bit fucking strange.
He's
I didn't
anti-sex
expect
worker.
this.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah,
He's
2010's a different time.
Yeah.
No, I think
So
there's nothing wrong with this scenario. I think it's more just, again, the underlying lying. Like,
yeah.
you know,
It's like the
that's what it
shock
comes
of like,
down to.
oh,
yeah, because it doesn't need to be something she hides from him. Like it's not, you
No.
know, it's not like she's
I
a
have a
Madame
bunch of debts,
dominatrix
but
or or
yeah,
I'm an assassin at night. It's just she just puts on a silly accent and makes
exactly.
and has
yeah,
PG-rated conversations with a bunch of men who phone her at all hours of the day and night.
yeah. So this is what leads to Topher Grace having a spare ticket and to go see a movie in a graveyard, which is a totally normal thing Hollywood people do apparently. You know, and this is he meets Shirley's husband at because he's also going alone as well, because that's what you do apparently. You know, he gives a spare ticket to Shirley's husband, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
So
don't they go every year? Isn't that the premise? Is
Well,
that they usually go to watch it?
yeah, because because this is a real Shirley movie that's shown as
Yeah.
well. Do you know which one it is, Jericho? Have you done your research?
No, sorry. The only Shirley MacLaine movie that I can name from her youth is probably The Apartment. If it's not The Apartment and it's not Bernie, then I'm not going to be able to tell you.
I know her mostly from Two Mules for Sister Sarah, the Clint Eastwood film.
Yeah,
it ain't that. So I don't know what it was, but it was actually sure it was Shirley.
It was
so
her,
I
yeah.
noticed that. I thought that was nice. That's a nice little bit. And she has a dramatic entrance shouting for I don't know what's her husband's
Edgar?
name. I'm just gonna my husband.
Edward? I don't know.
Edward. And so they reconcile at this point, and that clicked to me, and I said it to you. I was like, this is going to inspire my homemate to go, and all that matters is the truth. And if you like someone, you like someone. If you love someone, you love someone. Stop fucking about. You know, it's only phone sex. And I knew that was going to inspire Topher to go back to Anne Hathaway. So that was nice. I'm glad I predicted that. That was my last prediction probably from the film.
it was Hot Spell was the movie.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, they have that sort of they have that interaction where they each help each other. And then Shirley MacLaine turns up and is reunited with her partner Hector. Is that what we decided he was called?
We said Edward.
So many names.
Okay.
Shirley's husband. Husband.
The actor's Hector and the character name is Edgar. So she's reunited with Edgar and they sort of have that nice stand up real life mirroring the movies where they're kind of they have that embrace and people are like, hey, sit the fuck down. We're trying to watch a movie here. But things sort of are all good with that angle. This is where we get the trifecta. So Topher Grace explains that the deal with Anne Hathaway was she was the trifecta. She was smart, she was sensitive, she was sexy. And so, but then who knows, negative points for lying to you about being for not immediately disclosing hello, I have a sort of prank phone call line where I phone Chinese restaurants and order in a funny voice.
I think it's worse that she just kept going off on the date. You
It's
can
rude.
do what you want,
You can lie to me, just don't be rude. That's the
exactly.
cardinal sin here.
It's like a superhero thing of just like, oh, sorry, I need to run off to the nearest phone booth. And
Exactly.
um, so this is sort of concluding my notes. The one final one I have, which is relating to Kyle's thing about Hollywood sickos, and it's like a side character who is the reporter. Why is he even interviewing them? Do you know? Like he's interviewing like the school kids because he's deputized for like Jamie Foxx.
Because Jamie Foxx leaves at some point.
Yeah.
To go get the interview with the
he goes
athlete,
and Jessica Biel to get that interview. That's how their kind of romance starts.
Yeah.
And he tells his cameraman to take over. And so he continues to go and do the fluff pieces, and that's how that interview happened.
But why is he interviewing school children? Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an answer.
No one knows.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an answer that I had missed. Because he's interviewing school children seemingly about their sex life.
Well, not school children. It was high school students. So
but they're under 18, so technically they're children.
Was he talking about sex, or was he just saying, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Oh, maybe you're probably right, Marni. That is probably the sane way of looking at it. But he's like, what are your plans for... In my head, he's like, what are your plans for Valentine's Day? And Emma Roberts is like, I'm going to lose my virginity to my high school sweetheart. And he's like, ooh, bonus. And then he watches like the tailors make out. And he's like, oh, I wish I was still at high school. Like, he has like a really creepy line.
He's very creepy. That's weird. I guess that's just another scene to have the tailors make out or whatever. Like you say, I don't know if they were together before or during, but either way, fuck it. Like, but it's weird and it's creepy, and I don't know when this was in the film either. This is where it's all just blurs together, scene to scene.
Yeah.
But we're rapid on the home stretch. We've got our big 2 reveals to come up at the end.
Okay, I can remember one of them.
Okay, well, what you go first?
BC. BC is the only one I remember.
Okay, well, I remember he's not an orphan because his mum's Julia Roberts, Edison.
Of course.
Reveal. She has another hour on set, so we'll put her in quickly and make most of her money, and that's the only love. See, he asked out the Indian girl as well when he asked out Jennifer Garner, which feels like a fever dream. I feel like I'm just saying stuff now. And
no, that's right. He goes to like. There's lots of things that were missed. You know, Emma Roberts' character tells her boyfriend, we don't want to sleep together. They were at the Indian restaurant because whatever. Edison goes to say to his teacher that he loves her, and she's like, actually, your classmate whose parents own this restaurant right over there is the one who loves you. And then he's like, okay, I guess I'm 10. I'll go and give him something.
Yeah, he gives her the rose, and he's got a line like, I've got nothing else to say.
Yeah.
So you sit there in silence, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
And he also he helps her decide that she needs to be with Ashton, because Ashton's clearly like, hey kid, we'll call it even. I'll forget the $34 you owe me if you say to your teacher, like, sometimes the real guy you're meant to be with is right in front of you all along. Maybe he's like a best friend or something, and you should probably run and meet him right now.
Is that a real scene? Like, does he actually say that?
He does say something along like it. I'm simplifying it, but he does say like, oh, like sometimes love can be like with a friend or whatever, or like Kyle. What does he say exactly?
No, doesn't Jennifer Garner say that to the kid, and then she's like, oh, I convinced myself.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, no, the kid says something like, but what is love? And then she sort of like tells it herself of like, it can be anything. It could be sometimes more, like sometimes a friend could grow into. Yeah, she's like, what if she likes the same things as you? That could be like a good starting place. And maybe like she runs a florist shop, and oh my God, I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And so she runs off. And so my favorite reveal is like before we find out that Julia Roberts is Edison's mum, the plane goes their separate ways, and Bradley Cooper's fed us like a little bit. I can't believe we've spoken about him so little, but Bradley Cooper feeds us a little bit of like, he doesn't really like, he's like, I don't like candy and like I don't like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we know so much about like Julia Roberts being a troop, but we don't know about Bradley Cooper. And then he's like,
we just
hey,
know that he's heartbroken. I think that was the only, like, that's why he didn't like candy or whatever. We just know.
Yeah, he's like wounded. He's like a deep man.
Yeah.
And then like he's like, you know what? Like she's like trying to get a cab from LAX or whatever. And he's like, you know what? No, like take my limo. Like it's okay. I've got it for. And I was like, what's his deal? I was like, he's got a limo. I was like, is he the indecent proposal thing we pitched? Is he Robert Redford? Is he just like a mysterious billionaire? Because we then have Bradley Cooper Smithers who's driving her, and he's like, hey, he let you have the limo? Yeah, he doesn't really do that for everyone. And so she kind of,
sorry, I gotta interrupt real quick. There's a scene at the end credits when they're driving through the limo and the limo driver goes, oh, we're on Rodeo Drive, have you ever been here? And she, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And they reference Pretty Woman. Sorry, I had to interrupt for that.
I was like, oh, I got so fucking annoyed. I was I don't know why. I just irrational, because I was like, you're getting paid $3 million for this. You don't get to fucking reference better films, even if it is your star in it. I think it's the same director as well.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I clicked on when I was trying to find out about the Mother's Day, New Year's Eve, whatever, sequel, spin-offs, whatever. But yeah, you were, Jericho, you were like, oh, I wish every single one of them was referencing better films. That
no, you said to me, you were like, I wish they would do that. And I was coming up with the references. But you were like, let's just have everyone be like referencing better films you could be watching.
At this fucking point, yeah, why the fuck not?
When you're going to have such a large ensemble like that, like you may as well throw in a little bit. You know, why not?
I hate to make it worse for you, Kyle, but when I was looking up the Shirley MacLaine thing, Julia Roberts got paid like $3 million like base salary, but she also got points on the back end of the movie, so she made like about $10 million for being in this movie.
See, the thing is, fucking Franklin's carrying this movie, and he'll get fuck all. Like justice.
Okay, so the Bradley Cooper thing, the limo driver then drops her off. She says, Franklin, wow, Franklin's mom is alive, and she was just serving. And then Bradley Cooper, he reaches his destination, which is with the like football player. And that's when it gets revealed Bradley Cooper is gay, and that's the coupling for him.
That's it, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, hallelujah. A break from the heteronormativity of this movie crammed in the last 2 minutes. But wasn't something I was expecting to see. Least of all, Hollywood hunk Bradley Cooper.
Well, I didn't. The last thing I didn't expect, I think it's the final scene, is when Queen Latifah takes over the phone sex business.
That's a good one, yeah.
Which I was like, okay. I mean, Latifah doesn't get a love interest, and despite being so high billed, she's barely in it. So it was nice to see her wrap up thing. Everything's wrapped up. Everything's got a nice little bow in it, and everything's happy at the end.
And it was interesting too, because like Ashton and Jennifer Garner get together at the end, and they have this kiss, and they're like, they pull away, and they're like, that was weird, which is super normal. And then they're like, let's try it again. And suddenly, roll the credits. Magic, like, got the fireworks. It makes no sense.
I was thinking about it just now, though. In the entire film, with everything interwoven, Ashton and Topher don't share a scene, do they?
I don't think so.
Not that
we don't get it. Okay,
no.
We don't get a 70s show. They're kept apart completely.
So many times.
There's so many. Yeah, I don't know. I would have thought if you're going for that Oh wait, no, there is a 70s show reference at the very fucking start, isn't there? When Al Hathaway's phone goes off, and Topher's like, "Is that something from the '70s?" No, he's like, "Is that techno?" For her phone when it first goes off, and he's like, "Oh no, it's something from the '70s." A ringtone right at the start. I guess that might be a reference, but especially because they're throwing in references to everything. I thought you'd have put them together at one point.
I'll tell you on watch 49, Kyle. Once I've deciphered all the references to Taylor Swift, I will then tell you if there are any Easter eggs to that 70s show.
I would have loved for a Kelso moment. You can't flip the characters like that. So
Okay, so that basically concludes the film. But of course, this isn't just your regular bad movie podcast. We are first and foremost a Razzie podcast. So of course, this film was nominated for 4 Razzies, all of them acting nominations. So I know them. Kyle doesn't know them. Marnie, do you want to hazard a guess? Do the two of you want to guess which 4 people are nominated for Razzies?
I can go first on my ones. I've got 2 men and 2 females. I don't know if that's the case. So Ashton Kutcher is a lock-in for me. He is the face of the movie. He's the lead star, and he's not great. It's easy to dunk on him. I think he'll be definitely one of them. I think Taylor Lautner and Taylor Swift. I think Taylor Lautner, because I asked you, a Twilight came out this year, and I don't know which one came out, but one of them did, you said. So you can't escape it. If you're in 2 films and Mr. Razzie has his eyes on you, you're fucked. So Taylor Lautner, Taylor Swift, Ashton Kutcher, and one of the Jessicas. You could flip a coin, and it could be Beale or Alba. If one of them's in another film this year, that's the winner. But it's a 50-50 split.
Okay, Marnie, do you wanna guess?
well, I agree with the Ashton comment. When you're like the face of the film, it's kind of hard not to. And I thought you said Beale won it earlier, so I'm gonna go with Beale. Otherwise, I don't know. Like maybe Jennifer Garner more because it's just like it's such a her film, and that is a very like I thought of her in like 13 Going on 30, for example, and it's very similar acting and personalities. Not that I didn't like it, but it was just a good option. I don't know, maybe we're gonna throw Topher Grace in there just to bother Kyle.
So you were both right with Ashton Kutcher. He in fact won Worst Actor for Killer and Valentine's Day. So yeah, it was the classic. Like Kyle said, if you were unlucky enough to be in 2 films, then the Eye of Sauron is on you and there's really no escape.
Yeah.
And then in the same category, we had Taylor Lautner in the Twilight Saga, Eclipse, and Valentine's Day. I would say he's not a lead actor in either of those films.
No, definitely not this.
No.
He's on one of the bottom tier. Like I would say Ashton, Topher, they're the main 2 males.
Mr. McLean.
They're the main
Edgar.
2. Franklin, they're the 3 leads in the film. Yeah, no, he's not a lead. It's a supporting actor, yeah. But again, Mr. Razzie didn't have a clue. But again, that's 2 for 2. I'll take that.
And then we have Worst Supporting Actor, George Lopez. So he played Alfonso Rodriguez, the sidekick, but he was also in Marmaduke and The Spy Next Door. So again, like no one's going to watch this and focus on Alfonso and be like, that guy stinks. Like
I forgot about him. Yeah, I forgot about him even going through the actors in my head. I total non-entity, so it's a surprise. But like you say, he's in other things, and I assume they're bad as well. So you're fucked.
And then our final one, which you were both like in the vicinity of, we're supporting actress Jessica Alba, the winner for The Killer Inside Me, Little Fockers, Machete, and Valentine's Day.
Wow.
I'm not having Machete, not at all. But no, yeah, I mean, she isn't good in this. She's barely in it though.
No, she's not.
I think Beale probably would have taken it over her, but when you've got that run of 4 other films or whatever, like you say, the Eye of Sauron, there's no escaping you. So, oh well, I'll take that. That's a 2.5 out of 4. Not bad.
So yeah, just to power through our regular things. Marnie, do you think this is Razzie worthy?
Yeah. Like it's just one of those feel-good family movies. It served its purpose to be cliche and whatnot,
Yeah, I just think you haven't subjected yourself to enough of this, because I had a brilliant time, and I'm willing to fight for Taylor and Franklin and all our friends. I had a blast. So this wasn't actually nominated for Worst Picture because it was just the 4 acting nominations, and quite right, because I would be taking severe issue if this had been up for anything more. Kyle?
I think it's kind of on the head. I think there's nominations for actors in here, probably some winners as well. As a film, this was easy to watch. I will forget it. I've forgotten about it already for the most part.
Didn't you watch it like an hour ago?
Yeah, I know, but like, I see, like Rambo, I can go in scene by scene and stuff, but there's too much going on. I understand the nominations for the actors. I think 2010 is a horrific year for movies, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think it would be in the top 5. I could be wrong. Once we get to 2010, I can't even remember what the winner is for 2010, but I'm pretty sure it's a horrific fucking year. So it's probably gonna escape it just for that. I didn't enjoy it as much as you did, Jericho. We'll go through that quick fix, how I'd make it better. I think if this just was trimmed a little bit, if you take out some of the subplots, condense some of it down, it's too much going on. I was getting confused between Jessica's and who the fuck's Jessica Biel, what's she doing, and what's going on. If you just took out some bits, took out the Jamie Foxx as well. Why is Jamie Foxx playing a piano in an Indian restaurant?
Because it's a soloist reference, Kyle. He's making a reference to one of his other better films.
I agree with you, Kyle, though. I think that some things could have been trimmed. Like, it was definitely unnecessary addition, but yeah.
So yeah, just trim a bit, more Franklin. I'm a happy boy. Roll credits.
Honestly, just make the movie about Franklin. We don't need
Franklin's Day. Yeah, I'm very much in line with the two of you. I think like you just make some subtle changes. You maybe get someone to do another pass on the screenplay and be like, how can we get more jokes like the blue shirted 52-year-old man and just like stuff like that. I think the bones were pretty solid. We have Paul Thomas Anderson direct and just make it a bit more like Magnolia. No, I think just any little tweaks of probably losing some of the less interesting storylines and just like Marni was saying earlier on, better utilizing your cast of not having Julia Roberts and Bradley Cooper on a plane. I think it could have made some little changes that would have had you cooking. So one final note, Kyle wasn't aware that this movie was the trifecta. And so he looked it up afterwards. And what I obviously knew this, and you knew this, Barn, as being like one in like a bunch, because these things make a lot of money. And Hollywood is like, oh, so we only need like 30 seconds of Julia Roberts to sell this as a Julia Roberts movie. They then made like New Year's Day and Mother's Day. And Kyle was like, we're going to need to like tackle these other two. So Marni, can we rely on you to join us for Mother's Day and New Year's Day when we eventually tackle those for specials?
We've got to. I seen they were nominated, and I guess especially once we start running out of actual winners from Worst Picture, we're just gonna have to go through every fucking nomination there is. Keep this a podcast on life support until you cry. I don't know why you're getting all fucking facial at me there, Jericho. You love this movie. New Year's Eve could be even better, I
actually watched it on New Year's Eve. We didn't finish it.
Well, that's what I was going to say is we've got like 10 months for New Year's Eve. Mother's Day, it depends whether we're doing Canadian Mother's Day or UK Mother's Day. How long we might have to wait for that. But thank you very much, Marni, for joining us on
Yes, thank you very
episode.
much. It's been an absolute blast.
Thanks for having me. I was looking forward to it, and I look forward to whenever we decide Mother's Day. I was like,
again, do you have anything to plug or promote on our show with a listenership of 5? Anything you want to shout out? Any causes near or dear to you? Kieran supported independent cinema in Scotland.
No, I unfortunately do not. I live a very average, boring Canadian life, so nothing to plug here.
And I'm about to hop in my DeLorean and head off to 2015, the glorious future. What will things be like then? Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you again.
Of course.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, then we are at Watching Worst, where you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, if that's your thing. We're not going to judge. And you can get in touch at watchingworstfilms@gmail.com. So yeah, send us all your questions there, fan mail, Franklin fan mail, suggestions for future specials. That is where we can be reached. And next time we are going to be bringing Rambo First Blood Part 2 to you. Did I get the title right, Kyle? Is that it?
Yeah, Rambo First Blood Part 2. Terrible title for a alright film. You know how my excitement is on Rambo. You know my love for Stallone and the franchise in general. I've said a million times it's not the best. It's one of my least favorite ones, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good fun.
This is one of your big pillars with Star Trek and Freddy Got Fingered being the others.
It's
so
the bottom tier of this pyramid, though. This pillar. It's
okay, yeah.
It's my least enjoyed. Freddy Got Fingered, Star Trek 5, and then Rambo: First Blood Part 2. These are my 3 favorite films out of the Razzie winners.
That's good, because I am a little bit worried using that metaphor that you're standing on these and we're just going to be, you're going to be getting more unstable as we knock this pillar out from underneath you. And you're like, oh no, it's all just going to be Battlefield Earth and emoji movies. How am I going to cope? So you can join us next week for that. And in the meantime, all that remains to be said is happy Valentine's Day to you, whether you're a guy that runs a flower shop, whether you're someone who runs a sports agency, whether you're a kid that refuses to be told to sit down and shut up. From all of us at Watching Worse Films, have a happy Valentine's Day.
Peace out, guys.